Hey, this is X-Cult Baby with another Atheist Bible reading, and today I am going to be doing part 2 of my series on Moses and the Israelite Exodus from Egypt. If you haven't seen the previous video, link is in the description. You should probably watch it. It's a good video. In the last video, I covered pretty much everything from Moses' birth up until right before the 10 plagues in Egypt. So yeah, if you haven't seen that video yet, link is in the description. Go watch that first. That being said, let's get into the story. So, when we last left off, Moses and his wife and his son were on their way to Egypt. They were going to meet Aaron along the way, Moses' brother. Problem is that God has already told Moses in advance that when they go to tell Pharaoh to release the Israelites, Pharaoh is not going to listen to them. God has already told him that this is the case. And the reason that Pharaoh isn't going to listen is because God has hardened his heart so that he won't listen. So this is a totally pointless errand that he's sending Moses on, but who am I to question God, right? So then all of a fucking sudden, on their way to Egypt, God tries to kill Moses, and Zipporah, Moses' wife, appeases God by circumcising their son right then and there, cutting some of his dick off, and then it touches his feet, and God is like, cool. And then he fucks off. I don't even really know what to do with this. This is just, as my wonderful fiance Nathan put it, this is wildly nonsensical. So anyways, Moses meets up with Aaron, and Moses tells Aaron everything that he was supposed to tell him, that God told him, and he shows him all the magic tricks that God taught him. And then Aaron goes and he shows some of these magic tricks to the Israelites, and they're like, well, fucking finally, God decided to pay attention to us and not letting us keep getting fucked over by the Egyptians. Fucking great. So Moses and Aaron go to Pharaoh, and they're like, hey, the God of the Israelites wants you to let the Israelites go. And Pharaoh is like, the who wants me to do what? I think the fuck not. And instead of letting the Israelites go, Pharaoh increases their workload, so he makes life even worse for the Israelites. So all of the Israelites naturally are like, fuck you, Moses and Aaron, you made everything worse for us. And Moses is like, God, you sent me here to rescue these people, and now shit is even worse for them than it was before, so what the fuck? And God's like, well, I needed an excuse to fuck Egypt's shit up, and now I'm gonna fucking do it. So, Moses tells the Israelites that God's gonna fuck Egypt's shit up, but they don't want to hear it. They're pissed off. They don't want to hear it at this point. So then, God sends Moses and Aaron back to Pharaoh to do some close-up magic for them, even though, as already established, God has hardened Pharaoh's heart. He is not going to listen. So they go to Pharaoh, and they throw their walking sticks on the ground, and they turn into big snakes. And then the priests and sorcerers of Egypt do the same thing. They throw their sticks on the ground, and they also turn into snakes. But then Moses and Aaron's snakes eat the priests' snakes. So this is also a big problem for Christian theology, namely in terms of monotheism. Because clearly, the person who wrote this story did not believe there was only one God. They might have believed that the Israelite God was the greatest God, but they didn't believe they were the only one. And it's pretty clear here. If the God of the Israelites is trying to convey the idea that he is the only real God, why would he turn the priests of Egypt's sticks into snakes as well? I mean, if he's trying to get the message across that he's the only real God, wouldn't it just be like, snakes, sticks? Very clear demonstration. It's pretty clear that this kind of sets up for the theme of the rest of the story, how it's going to go. God of Israel does some tricks, the gods of Egypt do some tricks. But ultimately, the God of Israel is clearly the more powerful. He basically eats the other gods, as far as, how he fucks up Egypt. But, yeah, the gods of Egypt are helping their folks do some miracles too. They're just not as good at miracles. But, like I said before, if this story were written by somebody who believed that there was only one God, it would be pretty clear demonstration, and the point would come across pretty clearly if you had Moses and Aaron make snakes, and the priests just get sticks. And, as God has already told Moses and Aaron, Pharaoh doesn't listen. So God instructs them to go down to the Nile River while Pharaoh is there and to do some magic for him there. So Moses hits the water with his stick and the entire Nile River, and all of the water in Egypt turns into blood. Gross. This also raises some questions. I mean, does the source of the Nile River also turn to blood? Does the water that comes from whatever mountain runoff, does that also turn into blood? Or is only the part of the Nile River that runs through Egypt turned into blood? Or is the Nile that also reaches Ethiopia and Sudan, does that also blood now? Questions. there are questions raised from this. But I digress. So, again, reiterating that the Egyptian gods are apparently in the story also real, the Egyptian priests are also able to turn water into blood. They cannot reverse, unfortunately, what the God of Israel has done, but they are able to replicate the same miracle themselves. I mean, if you'd think that somehow the priests were finding a way to fake the miracles, the Bible would say that they're fake. But no, it says that they are able to do the same thing that Moses does, so evidently their gods are also backing them up. Probably one of the most unrealistic parts of the story is that the first plague wasn't enough to entirely annihilate the Egyptians, because, I mean, how long can you actually live without water? Not as long as the people in the story actually live. Yeah, what is it, 3 days without water and you die? These people live a lot longer than 3 days, I'll tell you that. So yeah, Moses and Aaron go back to Pharaoh and tell him that if he doesn't release the Israelites, the next plague is going to be a shit ton of frogs. And I'm just going to summarize the rest of these plagues because the story is very repetitive from here. It's a lot of the same elements repeated. Moses warns Pharaoh to let the Israelites go, or there will be another plague. Pharaoh either agrees and changes his mind, or he outright says no, or he tries to bargain and doesn't let all of the Israelites go. But either way, it ends up being a no, and then the plague comes. The Egyptian priests sometimes replicate the miracle and sometimes don't. The Israelites themselves are sometimes also hurt by these plagues, and sometimes they aren't. And that just doesn't make sense if if the point of these plagues is to try to protect the Israelites in the end. Is he just showing off and he doesn't really care who gets hurt? But anyway, this goes on for 9 plagues. The Nile River turns into blood, shit ton of frogs, shit ton of gnats, shit ton of gadflies, disease on the Egyptian livestock, disease on the Egyptians themselves, devastating hailstorm, shit ton of locusts, and then a darkness that is so thick that it blocks out the sun. In all this time, obviously, some of the Egyptians have changed their minds about the God of Israel being inferior, because clearly he's, fucking their gods in the ass, so what are they gonna do? So anyways, after all this, Moses and Aaron go back to Pharaoh again, and Pharaoh is sick to death of these guys, but he tries to bargain with them, trying to make it so that maybe all of the Israelites can go, or they can't bring all their livestock with them. And they're not having it. They're like, okay, it's all or nothing. You let us go or you don't. Now, Pharaoh is understandably very pissed off. And he basically tells them to get the fuck out and don't let me see your ass around here again or you fucking die. So, they leave. And then God is like, alright, this time I'm not fucking around. I'm gonna straight up murder every single firstborn in Egypt. So Moses has all of the Israelites get together. Each household selects a healthy 1-year-old ram, and they slaughter them all at the same time at twilight, which is really creepy. Like, this is some creepy ass animal sacrifice shit. I mean, how are you supposed to tell the difference between, the stereotypical devil worshiper and the chosen people of God if they're doing the same things? Using blood like it's fucking finger paint or some shit. That shit is creepy. Ugh. So anyways, they eat the sheep and they get ready to leave Egypt that night. And at midnight, God strikes down every firstborn in the land, human and animal alike, except for the ones where the Israelites took the blood of the rams and they spattered it on their doorposts. So, you look at their houses and they're fucking covered in blood. That shit's creepy as fuck. But, the angel or God or whatever passes over the houses that have the blood on the doorposts, and that is where the name Passover comes from, which is still celebrated today by Jewish people. The celebration of the murder of thousands of innocent lives in the land of Egypt, which never actually happened, historically, it never happened, but it's even as a myth, that's a creepy ass thing to celebrate. So anyways, Pharaoh's son is among the firstborns that is killed in this plague. So yeah, Pharaoh tells them all to fuck off. He tells them to get the fuck out of Egypt, finally. So after the Israelites scare the Egyptians into giving them all of their gold and money and shit, they finally leave Egypt. And God is leading the camp of Israelites with a pillar of clouds by day and a pillar of fire by night. Isn't that just lovely? And for some reason, God purposefully leads them in a really roundabout way. He doesn't lead them in the most direct way to Canaan. He just kind of takes them to the Red Sea, so they're all kind of sitting in front of the Red Sea what the hell are we doing here? I mean, I guess the pillar of cloud/fire is still there, so I guess we're going in the right direction, but this makes no goddamn sense. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, Pharaoh changes his mind about letting the Israelites go and decides to take them back. So he gets his whole army together to go after the Israelites. By the time they catch up to the Israelites, as I said before, they are sandwiched between the army of Egypt and the Red Sea. So, rock, hard place. And the Israelites are like, okay, I guess we're gonna fucking die here instead of dying in Egypt, which we were already doing. Like, why the hell did we even come out here in the first place? And then God is like, relax. And the pillar of cloud goes out from like in front of the Egyptians and goes, or out from in front of the Israelites and goes between them and the Egyptians. So there's like a kind of like a wall separating them, at least temporarily. And then Moses takes his stick and he waves it over the Red Sea, and the Red Sea parts so that there's like this strip of dry land in the middle, and he's all like, ta fucking da, motherfuckers. And then while the camp of Israel is going through the Red Sea, the Egyptians make their way and follow them, and they're chasing after them. And while they're in the middle of the seabed, the wheels start coming off their chariots, and they're like, oh fuck, we are so fucked. And then as soon as Moses and the Israelites are on the other side, and they're safely on dry land, Moses waves his stick again, and the waters come crashing down, and the entire army of the Egyptians, including the Pharaoh himself, and all of their horses, are drowned. The end. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, there are definitely, seemingly, plenty of ways that the God of the Israelites could have freed them from slavery without going about it in the most bloody, vindictive, roundabout way possible. I mean, he deprives the entire nation of Egypt of water, kills tons of animals, destroys their land and their crops, and murders what has to be thousands of innocent people throughout the story. I mean, jeez. And for some of the plagues, the Israelites themselves aren't even protected from the wrath of God. And he's supposed to be saving them. Supposedly, the entire point of this isn't like a dick measuring contest with the other Egyptian gods, but it's supposed to be to save them. And yet, they feel the ill effects of some of these plagues for some reason. And on top of all of that, he violates what is supposedly the free will of Pharaoh. And instead of violating his free will to make him go, free the Israelites, he makes him purposefully say, no, don't free the Israelites. So that God suddenly has an excuse to just cause massive destruction. And he's punishing, a king who has absolutely no way of even making this decision for himself. And he's punishing not just the king himself, but the entire nation that he presides over. You've got this powerful, warlike God who evidently just forgot about his people, and when he realizes that they're in danger, he brutally devastates an entire nation, killing and maiming indiscriminately because some of his own people are hurt in the process, until he allows their leader to set his people free. This is a power trip, Like, if he really just wanted to free the slaves, he would have just freed the slaves. But he didn't. This is a power trip. He wants to hurt people. He wants to, measure his dick next to the gods of Egypt and be like, my dick is massive. You guys are fucking tiny as shit, and I fucking rule, and I'm gonna fuck over all the people that you want to protect and help just to prove how much fucking greater I am. He's a dick, basically. Well, that's it for this video. Wasn't that fun? If you liked this video, give it a like, leave a comment, and most importantly, please share it. Really appreciate it. I upload new videos every Thursday, so subscribe if you want to see more of these in the future. Links to my Twitter, Tumblr, and my email address are in the description, so if you want to follow me on any other platforms or you just want to contact me, that's where you go to do that. I am XCultBaby, reminding you to go free yourself. Thank you for watching.